Our Assemblywoman is with us. That's important. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello to all of you lovely people. Can see your faces. It's
We
so
were
nice.
we were figuring that we would give people some opportunity to join us since we said it starts at 1. We know everyone will try to get on right now.
Right.
So maybe 5 after or so. Does that sound good to you, or would you like to wait a little longer?
Oh, whatever. We can just visit for a second.
Okay.
Hi, Mimi.
Sounds good.
Megan, I love your glasses.
Oh, thank you.
Really cute. Are they new?
They're pretty new. I discovered after all this screen time that I need them more than I realized.
Well, welcome to my world.
They're very helpful when reading screens and PowerPoints, those kind of things for sure.
Good. Good. Check out Baron's background there. Where are you, Baron? He's muted. Baron.
Where is Baron? I don't know if I see him.
Am I
No,
missing?
it's actually
It's Joe.
Joe
Oh
Radola.
my gosh, that's
Yeah.
Joe. All you bald guys look alike.
My island in the Bahamas, okay?
That would be nice.
That's nice. Sorry, I was thinking I had Baron on the brain.
No problem.
I thought I saw Silas Lyons with us for a second there too.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
We got Michelle Nystrom and Todd Smith. Good afternoon, everyone.
And Chad.
Michelle Godert, Eric and Leah.
How hot is it in Reading?
Too hot.
Oh, it's just seasonably warm.
Really warm. That makes it sound bearable.
Not smoky. It's not super smoky anyway, just haze, you know. It's supposed to be 104 today, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Lake
So
weather.
we have all the fires up near home, and it would blow out at night and we don't have air conditioning in Bieber. We just open our windows at night, and it typically cools, considerably down in the evenings.
Sure.
But by morning, you smell like a campfire because the whole house is filled
Oh,
with the smoke.
yeah.
So we're definitely in fire season for sure.
So sad.
I know it. Tule Lake there's a huge fire that blew up there as well.
When did that happen?
It started 2 days ago, but overnight it went from I think they said 14,000 acres to 44,000 overnight.
Oh my word.
So it's like to Captain Drack's stronghold, where they tip the kids to the lava beds. It's burnt there. It's now threatening some farms there in Tule Lake. So we got the gold fires, pretty much hog fires, very close, I think, to being contained. So, but then the winds change, just when they think they have it, the winds change again. So there has been evacuations, but
Gosh,
scary.
it is scary.
I know you were all dealing with, was it 2 days ago, the anniversary?
Well, it's every day practically. Yesterday was the anniversary of Jeremy Stoke dying.
Mhm.
And so it's been hard, and with so many people that lost their homes, and we've just been trying to text and email all of them just to let them know, we haven't forgotten this, and affirm the pain that they're in, but also, wishing and hoping that it will be less and less every year, and that they will become stronger and stronger as they move forward.
I think that's so important so people don't forget. They don't, even we've had those conversations here in Sacramento, Paradise, and we still have to remember we need to be working on our forests. Like it's here. We can't forget. And Brian and I were just discussing last weekend coming home. We were driving and said, well, at least during the COVID, we haven't yet faced fires, and it literally started. And so I think we just always have to be diligent. I know in Shasta County, all throughout the district, there's high fire threat, and it's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah, it sure is.
There's a lot of, I don't see all the.
Megan, how far is it the hog fire up there in Lassen?
Yeah, so that's near Susanville, near Susanville. So for our home is 75 miles from Susanville, from the county seat. So the Gold Fire was only probably 5 or 6 miles from our home.
Oh.
So it's just always eerie at night, you know, when you can see the flames and the trees bursting, the juniper trees particularly.
Yeah. And I think today, the 27th, is kind of the day in Reading 2 years ago when everyone was evacuating, and you know, we could look down and see the fire coming over the mountain. And yeah, so I think we all remember that day pretty well.
There's that one picture of the Sundial Bridge and the Sacramento River, the 2 days before the fire, and then above it is the fire. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
That's, it just hurts.
Yeah, it really does.
We had 2 local volunteer firemen be burnt over in their trucks, and last week, and they were airlifted, and they have 2nd-degree burns, but they're going to be okay. But that was very scary. They had time to get into their fire shelter, but lost the engine. So, you know, in a small community, you all kind of like take a deep breath, because you're like, who is it? You know, because we know everybody, literally know everybody.
Yeah, right.
So, anyway, just lots of prayers for safety over firefighters as you're watching the tankers and the helicopters, and, you know, brave men and women out there. So lots of prayers for protection.
Definitely. Well, we've hit the 7 minutes after 1. Okay. So perhaps we could get started, and I'll just say, first of all, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day to join us today, knowing that many of you are working within businesses or running businesses at this time. And that's really the main topic of discussion today, is how COVID-19 and what's happening at the state capitol is affecting business in the North State. And our Assemblywoman, Megan Dahle, has done a wonderful job in trying to coordinate an effort to make sure that your voice is heard in Sacramento. She is our assembly person in the 1st District of the state of California. And I'll read a little bit about her from her page, not Wikipedia, but
oh yes, don't
the Megan's page itself. So she and her husband Brian have been married for more than 20 years with 3 amazing children who never fail to impress and motivate them every day. Their oldest son Chase studies agricultural science at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Reagan is serving as the California State FFA Vice President. Rosalind, the youngest at 9 years old, lights up the home with her love of song and dance. So that's a little bit of the maybe personal side of the family. But I would just like to turn it over to you, Assemblywoman Dahle, to take it from here. And maybe the first question I'll ask you is, what do you want people to know, and what do you want them to get from this today? Why are we meeting?
Well, I think the key that we struggle with in the North State is feeling that our voices are heard, that we don't look like the rest of the state. We have lots of treasures in our district that I think we need to highlight. Shasta County has done a great job with recreation and, you know, pulling people in and letting them, you know, see the value in our district. But with that comes challenges as well, because we don't look like LA, San Francisco, San Diego. And during this pandemic, I think it's been even more highlighted where we are so different. So with our kids, with broadband, when everyone had to go to distance learning, you know, the reality that most of the district has very spotty, if not no, internet service at all. So in those, in, you know, the large, more urban areas, they have access to hotspots and things like that. And that's been highlighted even further. And I'm very passionate about education, rural education. I spent time on our local school board raising children, and the, you know, the high school had 52 kids when Chase graduated. So we really understand like what it looks like and feels like to live so remotely. And most of this district is remote. I mean, it's 9 counties. It's the largest, 25,000 square miles, the largest district in the state as far as square miles. And we're very spread out. So I think that's the one size fits all has been highlighted even more so during this pandemic. And we're business owners. We have employees, we have semi trucks. And so I feel those stories that come in, and they're, you know, we're being flooded with phone calls right now. Our staff are helping every day with EDD calls, hundreds of cases. We ran a matrix for the Assembly Republican caucus. We have done and taken care of more cases than any other Republican in the state of EDD cases. So we've 600 cases we've helped with. And, you know, it's been a nightmare for some people. You get the, you know, my staff plays me these very emotional phone calls of people just in tears. I won't be able to make my rent. And it's emotional and you want to do more. And so I think that's what I want to do. I want to hear our voice. You know, I want everyone to hear our voices. I want everyone to hear our stories, because in Sacramento, the reality is there is some, I mean, Cal Chamber's great. The Reading Chamber puts out, I watch what the information that's coming out that's very helpful, and trying to decipher all these orders as they come in and what does that mean for my business and how can I comply? I want to comply. I want to be safe as I open. But there really is not a strong lobby here for small businesses. And I've just been elected since November, but obviously with Brian, I've been very active for the last 8 years. And I would come here and listen to bills that were coming, you know, at small businesses and think, where is the voice? Where is the voice for the small business owner with 0 to 10 employees? Because that's us. You know, I don't fall under the trucking, the California Trucking Association. I'm not a member of the Trucking Association, but I have a semi truck, you know, and I have a full-time driver. So, or maybe you're part of the Restaurant Association, but small businesses in general don't have one cohesive voice. And that's what I want to do with this movement, is I want you to write letters. And I'm so excited. We just did the video on Friday. We've had 400 people, 400 businesses already. I know, that's a big win, because we haven't, it was a video. That's all we've done so far. And so, you know, we worked over the weekend. We want a hashtag. We won't be able to change our profile pictures for Facebook, you know, temporary profile changes, just trying to create a movement, because I think as I'm like thinking over things and I mean, honestly praying about things, Main Street America keeps us all running. They really do. They support your Little League team. Brian and I, when the minimum wage came, I was down here and I was screaming at the TV in his office because we sat down and did a little, just for my own, I said, who have we started out? Like, who we hired for the first time? They didn't know how to fill out a time card. They didn't have a checking account. They never brought food for themselves when they came to work for us. I'm feeding them 3 meals a day when they work all day. You know, these are kids, right? Over 20 people. And just in our little business, we've given them their first job. And that's what small businesses do. They start you out. They're your neighbors. They're your community. They're the ones that sponsor your kids for Little Leagues. And so when I look at legislation that's coming down, and there's some really bad small business bills that even during this pandemic, as people say, our governor, let's praise our small businesses, but yet we still put more burdens on them. And it's a continuous thing. And so it hurts my heart, because Mimi and I are friends. I mean, I have people in my life that I'm very close with that are small business owners, and I'm watching them right now just reel through this whole thing. And so that's what this movement's about, is just like, I want to hear your stories. I want to be able to share your stories. And I think I just know it's important when we come together unified and just tell your story and how important it is that your business, I mean, people are writing into us, I've had my business for 10 years. I didn't take a weekend for 5 years to build my business. And now I've been forced to close. It's just heart-wrenching.
I think, what we keep hearing is that this is a health crisis and it's an economic crisis, and both of those are tragic. And so I know I could ask a lot of questions on behalf of our members and so on today. I think that you would probably want to hear from the people that have joined us today as well. I wanted to let everyone know, I should have said this at the beginning, some of the housekeeping stuff. You all are Zoom pros by now, so you knew that you needed to mute yourself to improve the experience for all of us. If you have questions that you want to ask along the way, the chat feature is a great thing to do that, and we'll make sure that your questions are answered. If it happens to be on something that is not the topic of focus today, then we can get to that in a different forum, but we want to make sure that that that's an opportunity. Another thing you can do is you could always wave at us, and then we'll just allow you to answer, ask your question at that time. But with that, how can people submit that that story, or did it just get added to the chat? I think Erin may have just put it in there. So.
Oh, look at you. You are a Zoom expert. You can just go on.
Well, okay, so we did that already. So that's good. One of the biggest challenges that we've experienced in the rural part of the state where our numbers have been low is that we've been given a set of guidelines as a community, these objective numbers. And as long as we maintained, or we were within those parameters, we were supposed to continue to operate as safely as possible. But that changed when the governor, with one broad stroke, made that decision a week or so ago. And that's really troubling to those industries that have been hardest impacted, restaurants and breweries and wineries and so on. So I guess knowing that our numbers aren't as large as they are in other metro areas, obviously this is a way of getting our voice to Sacramento. What else can be done, or what are you doing, Megan, on our behalf?
So I'm partnering with Assemblymember Gallagher, James Gallagher. So his district is somewhat similar. So he has six counties. Same, Butte County is having some rise right now, but same thing, trying to get a coalition of 15 counties together to request the governor go back to what he said multiple times, was talk to your local public health officer. That has been the direction, has been made multiple times since March, only to have it be rolled back, or like you said, just a blanket restrictions put back on. So the ask is for our true local control, so that as you see where your cases are coming from, for instance, from my understanding, the cases are not coming from restaurants. So then why are we rolling back our dine-in facilities? We should, and our track and trace, because we don't have as many cases as some of the bit larger areas, we can tell where our cases are coming from. So that is the key, I think, is local control. I've always advocated for that. Your local elected, your city council, your board of supervisors, they know their districts, they're close to them. They have hopefully have a great working relationship with their public health officer, who, the livestock auction was a perfect example. We worked behind the scenes as well with getting all that going, and it went off great. And I know that was like, cross your fingers, we're going to do all these things right, but it went well. And so I think that's what's so frustrating, is that each one of the counties have put together these plans, and for some counties don't even have a lot of staff to be able to create a plan. No one's ever done this before. No one's ever been asked to say, what would it look like if we were to open safely, and what do you need? How are you going to do that? So they created these plans. They got approval from the governor's office, but we're not sticking to those plans. We're not sticking to those guidelines of those certifications for the counties. So that's what I'm asking. That's what Gallagher and I are asking together. We're going to give it this next week for elected officials to sign on, and then we're going to submit that letter to the governor. So we're really pushing and hoping for a North State 15 county coalition to say, we want local control. We want to be able to make our own decisions where to roll back and open back up.
Thank you for that. We do have a question in the chat room from Michelle Nystrom with O2 Employment Services. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi.
Hi.
So we have a massive problem with unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's being negotiated at the federal level in terms of the extra 600. However, from the beginning of this, there have been serious issues with the state system. And I know we hear a lot about budget deficits that we're now going to have. But from an employer's perspective, there are claims that were awarded that we were receiving paperwork 8 weeks after they'd already been awarded. They're already getting the extra 600. People declining to return to work, people declining new work. From our perspective, in the hundreds of businesses that we deal with, we have businesses that are on the verge of having to close because they don't have people, and we can't find the people to actually want to go back to work. And there's no way for us to report to the state that an employee declined work or have them, there's a lot of fraud happening on the unemployment system. And is there any plan whatsoever at the state level to address that, or to have compensation returned by employees who filed a fraudulent claim or have declined to return to work? Or, they'll just flat out say, I'm walking off the job because I want to stay on unemployment because I'm making $26 an hour. And there's no way for us to just go in as employers and say, hey, here's the name and phone number of this employee. And with the technology that we have these days, it seems like that would be a really easy cross-reference on the back end to see if that person is on unemployment and whether they should stay on unemployment. And I've written to a multitude of different public offices, and no one seems to really care. But I think that's the next upcoming threat to our businesses. You can't, if your doors are open, that's great and that's super important, don't get me wrong. But if you don't have people to run your business, you can't stay open anyways.
I think that's another place where we need to tell those stories, because I've heard businesses telling, that call in and say, I can't get my employees returned back to work. Or if they are going to return back to work, the fear is they may be at work for a week and they still haven't gotten their unemployment. They've been waiting 8 weeks for that unemployment. So if we come back to work, am I going to have to open up a new claim? These are all calls that we get, my staff is getting on navigating the EDD. And there is going to be an audit for the EDD, which I think is, I'm sure we're going to find all kinds of fraud and things that it was just a mess. It was just a mess, and it wasn't designed, I know, to take in millions of people at one time. But I think that's really important, Michelle, and that's something I can definitely address and bring to the forefront. Do you have people that would, sign on to a letter, businesses that say, I had employees, I've tried to have them come back to work and they, refuse because they're making more on unemployment? Is that something you pull together? Or the chamber could maybe lead, have a questionnaire, go out to all of your businesses and see what comes back to me, because that would be really helpful. Because I have people say that, oh, that can't be true. People want to work, all these discussions, social media chats or whatever, where people start to kind of, come at each other a little bit. And I don't want that, but it would be really good data point for me to know, are we talking about, what kind of number are we talking about? And yes, they are negotiating on the federal side, but we can't wait on that because we don't know what's going to happen with that. So I would really like to see if you could pull that together for me, because that's certainly something that I can, in my position, write a letter to the head of the EDD and say, let's see if we can put something on the website where it's a box they have to check, on the business side of it. Because I know when you get those letters that say, your employee, it is later, even normal status, it takes too long for an employer to find out that someone has, gone in for unemployment on you. And it's a system that definitely needs to be revamped anyway, because how long is it? It's months later they can come back on you, even after they're not working, correct?
Yeah, it's there's two different forms there's and I won't get into the details because no one cares, but there's 2 different forms that you get from unemployment. And one is a new claim on an employee that you were the last employer, and one is a claim on someone who's filed unemployment where you were a previous employer in the last 4 quarters. And this is a problem, don't get me wrong, that has existed in California prior to COVID. Right. Because as a staffing agency, I get people that decline work all the time because they're on unemployment benefits and they want to stay on unemployment benefits. Well, they may have worked for Todd at Dignity or Mimi at the Mosley Cellars, and they may be on their unemployment, but I can't report that. There's no way for me to go in and report this employee just declined work. They're on someone's account. It may not be mine. Right. So unless I get that initial claim, and I mean, with the way that we can manage technology these days and leverage it, it's mind-blowing to me that the state hasn't done that. And then we're facing this massive deficit because we're paying out benefits and some get charged to employer accounts, but a lot of times the state can't charge it to an employer account. So they're just footing the bill, and eventually that will raise all of our taxes for unemployment across the board. So that 6.2% threshold that's the maximum right now is going to go up because they're going to have to pay for the system. So there also doesn't seem to be any kind of urgency on the part of, like, we have 130 open jobs today. We have no one that wants to work. So therefore we have 130 clients that have a labor shortage. And that's a problem, and it's going to be exacerbated as businesses try to reopen and as they try to get back to their pre-pandemic numbers.
You're right.
Well, it's definitely something I would want to work on with you. Absolutely.
Yep, that has been one of the common calls that we've gotten at the chamber as well, has been from businesses that have said that that's made it really challenging in retaining their employees. And for some of these businesses, there is plenty of work. And unfortunately, they don't have the manpower or woman power to fulfill the orders that are there. We have another question that's come from the chat room from Kathy Antonson. And her question is, let's see, it's if there is local control given back to the counties, what would be the parameters for opening or closing? What would that look like? And I can make a quick comment and say that our local Shasta County Board of Supervisors worked on a letter that they sent to the governor that focuses on one metric primarily, and that's hospitalizations. So setting a number like 20 hospitalizations in Shasta County, if we can remain below that threshold, then we would continue to be able to conduct business. But maybe you would have something to add to that, Megan?
Well, I think that the goal would be for this coalition letter is what I envision. Best case scenario is the governor says, okay, local control is best. You can make these decisions. You would have to go, but remember, these counties have already been certified to open safely. So that's the part that's like, it's very, very frustrating, is they already have submitted their percentages. And I've asked for it, but I don't have it here in front of me. Shasta counties, when they opened, I think in stage 2, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that can, that there was a percentage that you could do of an uptake of cases, positive cases, and then you could roll back to the stage 1. And so last I understood, you were at like 2%. Is that correct? And I think the certification says 8. So don't quote me on that. But the point is, each county has that already to open safely, to have dine-in restaurants, to have your churches open, to have all of those things open. It already is sitting there. But when the governor comes in and says, statewide, all these are closing, even with that county already have done all that work, we're asking go back to that original certification and let the counties decide. Because then they know what to close, what to roll back. If your cases are coming from mass gatherings or whatever, family groups, then you can message around that. Don't meet in a 30-person family group, but it's not coming from our restaurants. So I mean, I think that's where ultimately we want to get to, is where your county public health officials can make those decisions based on tracking data.
Yeah, more of an objective approach. That definitely we would agree with that. And then also, I guess the other thing too is you feel like as a community, if we are being told that we have the ability together as a county to make the difference, to keep our businesses open, that it's up to us, and then it's not really up to us because one person can change it like that, then it kind of kills that momentum that we had going as a community as well. Where we feel like, I'm doing this for Ed Rollman so he can keep C.R. Gibbs open, as an example.
Exactly. And the North State has done a great job. I know when we, everyone in our family came home in March, Rosalind and I didn't go anywhere for 2 weeks because we had been in Sacramento. So we don't know. So we stayed home, stayed tight, didn't see my grandparents, didn't see my parents. We all took it very seriously because we were going to be part of the solution and not the problem. And now if you look at our numbers, we've done a great job in the North State of keeping our numbers low, keeping our hospitalizations down. So I think it would be nice to be rewarded for that great work and to keep that motivation, momentum up, because my fear is in other parts of my district that they're just going to throw their hands up and say, well, we've been trying to stick within those, social distancing and wearing the mask, but it's really hard in Modoc County to say that when there's been no cases this whole time, or Sierra County or Lassen County, who has done a fantastic job, but they just brought infected inmates into their prison system that borders their community. So this is where people are just they want to do the right thing. They want to protect their neighbors, but they need incentive to keep that going.
Absolutely.
Yes,
here I am. I have other questions I could ask. I think that, we also have those that are with us today that probably have a question too. So I'm going to look to Ed Rollman because Ed usually has something to say. So what from the restaurant, because this is, and in all seriousness, I would look to Ed and I would look to Mimi Mosley, because you all represent industries that have been doing this yo-yo back and forth. We're open, we're closed. So from your standpoint, each of you, how have you dealt with it? What's your opinion of the way things have gone? Have you been able to overcome it in some way? Are there other frustrations you're seeing with inconsistencies among your competitors? What is it?
You know the answer to all that, Jake, because we've talked about it. My biggest frustration is the yo-yo effect. One week we're open, 1 week we're closed. Quite honestly, I was afraid that maybe the governor was going to shut everything down today. I still think that he, in his mind, back of his mind, he has that in the back of his mind that he's just going to, say, let's go back to the stay-at-home order. We never know where he's going to go. But my biggest frustration, I think, and a lot of restaurant people, I think, have the same frustration. We immediately moved to go and do outdoor dining. I'm sure Mimi's tried doing some outdoor tastings. I know I've seen some stuff online. And, I think that 75% of the restaurant operators in our area have done an amazing job trying to get there. They've built patios in their parking lots. They've places on their sidewalks. They've done everything right. And then there's that 25% out there that don't want to play. And I get it. I've tried not to wear a mask for a long time. I hate it. It's it's hard for me to breathe in it. But if that's what we need to do to make things work, then I think we need to work as a team to get there. And I think the frustration that I have, being one of the voices that kind of came out and said, let's open our restaurants back up. I had conversation after conversation with Karen Ramstrom and Donnell Ewert, and we provided them with information on how to open a restaurant and how to do it right. And they used a lot of that stuff. A lot of the stuff came from the state. It came from the stuff we saw in Texas. but there's the people that are out there that fight it are the ones that keep us from moving forward. And we've got to find a way that we all work together. And you know, we don't like wearing masks. We know that, but if that's what we got to do to get this thing behind us, then so be it. And you know, there's a million things I'd rather be working on than worrying about whether wearing a mask. I mean, Michelle's comment about finding employees. I mean, that's something that yeah, the majority of my employees came back to work. But I had 5 cooks not come back to work. You know what that does to a kitchen? I mean, it's devastating when 5 of your best guys aren't there anymore. And thank goodness that I have the management staff and the staff that I have people that are breakfast servers that are cooking on the line right now. And if you'd have told me that, you know, Amy was going to be cooking and doing all the stuff that she's done because she's a loyal employee, I would have said, no, that's never going to happen. So frustrations, I get all the frustrations. I just think we got to find a way, Megan, where if we could get you maybe to come to Reading and have a meeting with some of the restaurant operators, we can find a giant space to do it in. I think we've got to find a way to get everybody to work together, because there's some players out there that don't want to play, and that's my biggest frustration right now. I can survive with my patio. Quite frankly, I've had great business, but there are places that can't, and I get it. And they're making the wrong move for the wrong reason.
Right. So do you think that I'd absolutely meet? That would be great. Do you think if all players, ones that are, you know, outside dining, ignoring the ordinances, knew that tomorrow, just like you said, we all hold our breath at noon, including myself, which is incredibly frustrating because I represent almost 500,000 people, and I don't know what's coming at noon every day.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes people say, oh, that's political. No, that's just factual. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you don't know what's coming at noon every day. So we all kind of hold our breath and hope for the best, and it doesn't always happen that way. But if they knew, if all the restaurants, if all the businesses in Shasta County knew that you had your public health officer and your county administration could make those decisions, I think everyone would play better, right? Because you know what the rules are, and the rules aren't going to change at noon every day. And so that is the big push. And I think that's something that, you know, even if all the restaurants were together that said, you know what, if this is the framework, we'll do it. But we just can't wake up tomorrow after I've bought food for a week and find out the rules have changed. And I've watched all of these, Your Business and other, you know, everybody, they're blocking off streets in Nevada County so that everyone can pour out into the street so that their restaurants can stay open. I mean, people are amazing, and business owners are very, I mean, we adjust and we move quickly, but under these circumstances, you can only do so much. And in Reading, it's what we say it was going to be 104 today. So you have some very loyal customers that are still willing to come and eat outside in what I feel like is the face of the sun, because I don't live where it's that warm. So do you agree that if the rules were set and you did, and you know, tomorrow they weren't changed on you just like that, do you think more people would get on board with? I mean, I'm the same way. I'll wear a mask into your store because I want you to stay open. I understand the value of your small business, and it's not that, you know, I'll do it because I want you to be there.
The promise that was broken, you know, the promise was it was going to be at a local level. That promise was broken. And that devastated a lot of operators. I know an operator that was only open for 10 days, Chase Stedman from Moonstone Bistro. Great restaurant. I actually got to go in there one day while he was open. You know, but he was totally devastated because he had planned opening up, and he waited, and he opened up on the 5th of July or something, and He's open for 10 days, and then all of a sudden, boom. And I called him and I said, man, I'm really sorry that happened. And he goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to run through the end of the week because I want to run my food out. I'm not going to lose my food. And he ran through the end of the week, and I got to applaud him for that.
Yeah.
He had no choice because he had made an investment, just like you said. He bought the food, thinking that he was going to be able to operate that week, and it was a no-go. And to drop that bomb on you at noon on a Monday afternoon just doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
And to answer your question a little further, I'm actually having a meeting on Wednesday morning with Karen Ramstrom and some people from the county health department, along with Bruce Dean from Black Bear Diner, who has worked side by side with me to get some things done. And that was his biggest concern, was give me the ability to open up, and I'll open up just like the ones that are already doing it and breaking the law. He goes, just give me that ability. That's what he wants. He wants the okay to open up. And if the governor can give the counties that much leeway, I think that the North State could provide a proof that it can be done correctly. And I agree with you. Those 9 counties or 15 counties, if you get Gallagher aboard, then we're the proof. We're the ones that have to make it happen and do it sensibly and make sure everybody wears masks and make sure that all the things are done the way that they need to be done so that we can comply.
So I would say with that, encourage your local electeds. If you think that this, the coalition is a good idea, if you think the 15 counties are a good idea, encourage your local electeds, because, honestly, they have a very tough job, and the CARES money is dangled in front of them. And that's, it's bullying and extortion. And I have a whole, how I feel about, and we've been cut out. It's 500,000 people or less. The CARES money comes through the state. Anyone that's a bigger county got it directly. They already have it. They already have it with no strings attached. So then comes back to my original point. One size doesn't fit all. We should not be cut out. We should not be set aside. We should, we have done a great job. We should get the, proper credit for how well we've done. So just encourage those local electeds, because they need you right now. They really do. This is tough times for them. And just like business owners, they didn't, I thought the thing I was going to be dealing with this year, which would be huge, would be PSPSs, the power shutoffs, because many businesses lost, so much inventory, grocery stores, and, because of their power outages out for 5-7 days. I thought that was going to be the biggest thing we faced this year in January when I started my first session.
If only. I know Mimi had her hand up earlier. I want to give you a chance to chime in too.
Yeah, I've been fortunate because we had a little bit of a heads up from a Reading PD officer who's over the ABC. And he said, go ahead and get this. It's just to be able to open our grounds area for outdoor. He had the insight to say, you need to go ahead and file for that right away. We got it within a day. It was great. So now we have 6,000 square feet of a lawn that we can do tasting outside. Not all wineries are able to do that. Not all restaurants are able to do that. It'd be great if Market Street could close the street down so that Blade and Barrel and Vintage, all those places could come out and be able to be in the street. But the ABC is a big stumbling block there. And had we not done this when we did weeks before, we probably would not get approved today for it. And so it's not a big cost. It's about $100, but that's an element, is the ABC and what kind of the stronghold they have on restaurants, wineries, brew pubs, and and I know as far as all the wineries, only know of one that is not requiring their staff to wear masks, and that I feel like they've shot us all in the foot, because they made a stand like that and the rest of us are trying to obey and do what we're told to do. And, then somebody else, kind of like Ed was saying earlier, there are people who push back and go, well, hell no, I won't go kind of attitude. That screws us all up. So just your thoughts there.
Yeah. Well, I think that is when, so that's good to know about the ABC. I know I've heard throughout the district, and they were actually very, I don't think it's the right word, but they came in, up in Alturas when Modoc County started making headlines. They popped in on a few people that we are good friends with, and they said, they came, they said, hey, we're just checking it out. We still want to see how you're doing. And they didn't fine them. They didn't, even give them a warning. They just said, we're here. We've got to be out looking around. But it is happening for sure. They're coming into establishments and finding them, closing them down. It's happening in Nevada County right now. So, but that's good to know about the ABC. So if they opened up the downtown street, are they reluctant on giving, because it's open like that and there's so many people versus your area that it's like, more set apart? Is that part of
the ABC rule used to be if you had anything outdoor, excuse me, it had to be enclosed. You had to have, kind of like C.R. Gibbs looks, it's got
right.
like a barrier, and we have no barrier. But for this temporary variance, we were able to get this, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but it seems like that would be an area that could at least be helpful to restaurants, that they don't even have to get that variance. Just close down a street or a lane or a sidewalk or something, so businesses could at least get some kind of business going through. I feel very fortunate that even though we lost 3 of our 4 revenue streams, we at least have Friday and Saturday nights. We aren't making a tenth of what we did before, but this is something that we can do because we had a heads up, and not
right.
everyone had that.
I can tell you too, Mimi and Ed and everyone gathered here, that the Chamber is going to be hosting another Zoom meeting on Wednesday at 2:00 with restaurateurs, brewers, vintners, and probably coffee roasters as well. And this is one of those topics of discussion to bring up. Larry Voppel with the City of Reading is going to be sharing the procedure for expanding your outdoor dining legally. And if you want to get into the public right-of-way, like in sidewalks and streets, that he said it's not impossible. It just takes some more steps, and there's insurance that you have to have and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's important to bring that information to the restaurants and others in the community so they know what their options are, because you just feel kind of paralyzed, I could imagine, at this time. I also wanted to give a couple of additional notes from the Chamber's perspective, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we established this rapid recovery program back in probably late March, early April. And you can find out more information about that at readingchamber.com, along with information on our business grants. Business grants now, we have more than $1 million to grant to businesses across the county of Shasta, thanks to partnerships with Reading, Anderson, the city of Shasta Lake, and the county of Shasta. So unincorporated parts of the county now qualify as well. And these are micro enterprise grants for businesses with 5 or fewer employees who did not receive a PPP loan or another SBA loan during the current COVID-19 disaster. Unfortunately, we've had some other SBA disaster loan qualified events in recent times. The Chamber is also an outlet for free PPE. So we've got boxes of masks as well as hand sanitizer, and those are for businesses. So come and see us at 1321 Butte Street, and we'll hand you a box and a bottle. Finally, just a quick note to Michelle Nystrom again. We've got this challenge that we have going right now for restaurants. And I thought that if you think about this, Assemblywoman Dahle, about, district-wide, how this could be expanded. But go ahead, Michelle, and talk about that if you want, real quick.
Thanks, Jake, for always giving me a heads up that I'm going to talk by like 3 seconds. So on a Reading/Shasta County level, we started an open for business page way back when. I say way back, it was like 4 months, but it feels like 4 years, for businesses in our community, not just restaurants, but all businesses, to post about how they're open, how people can support them, what options they have available for whether it's Mimi delivering wine or Ed doing takeout meals, but also for the community to post how they're supporting them, just as a sign of encouragement for them, and to then spread the word and encourage other people to support their businesses as well. We started doing Facebook Lives as a part of that, where we go out to businesses every day, not today because I was super tired, but every other day, and to give them the opportunity to talk and tell the community what they're doing, how, what changes have been in place and things like that. And now we have launched a Supporting Our Local Restaurants pledge, where we are trying to get 10,000 individuals and businesses to pledge to supporting a local restaurant, winery, or brewery X number of times. So we know it's a super tough time for all businesses. Our business doesn't necessarily provide services to just everyone in the general public. I guess we kind of do, because we find people jobs. But we're struggling as well. We've taken a massive hit, obviously, because we bill payroll, and when people aren't working, it's not beneficial for us. But so we know everyone's struggling, but we've still committed to buying lunch for our staff once a week. And then, like, I individually am committing to buying, supporting a local restaurant twice a week. It's not difficult for me because I don't cook, but everyone can contribute in some way, whether that's I buy a bottle of wine for a friend or a client, or that type of thing. And so really trying to get the whole community behind that, because I think it's so easy for us to forget. I don't wake up and run a restaurant every day. I don't wake up and try to sell wine every day. And I get so wrapped up into, like, is my kid going to pass his junior year of high school? And I need to hire a tutor, and I have a separate business to run. And so it's so easy for us to lose that front of mind of the businesses in our community that are really struggling. So just trying to keep it in the front of people's minds to continue to issue that support. And anyways, that was my really long impromptu response. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks for that, Michelle. And then I do have a question. I've got a question in the chat room back for our Assemblywoman here today. This comes from Karam, and he says, California technology businesses are being so globalized, and given the fact that our trade relationship with China is being damaged every day, this generates great opportunity for bringing back technology and manufacturing businesses, as well as training in the U.S. and perhaps in our county and in your district. Do you have any recommendations on this?
Well, I want economy desperately in our district. Unfortunately, at this point, the state, we don't incentivize, new businesses. We make it very difficult to be in business here. But yes, I think there is an opportunity. I think people have been very wise in with their marketing. Like, this is California grown, this is locally grown during this time. So definitely, I think it is, as we face the EDD problem, and we have websites like our DMV, but yet we have Silicon Valley that, the best technology in the world, and we can't seem to get our systems to work properly. So I'm hopeful that we're going to be looking at all of that here very soon. But yes, I'd love to have as much as we can, even in the North State too. If we can get our internet to be really strong, we could bring in all kinds of great growth into our areas. So
I think that's a really great response, particularly on the digital divide that exists in rural parts of the state. We've seen it where, I have board members that live outside of the city limits of Reading, and they have to find locations to be able to Zoom in for our board meetings because they just don't have the internet speed for a Zoom meeting. So that really is apparent, and we've seen it in education as well, right?
Right. But I also think it's a interesting time for us as well in the North State, because if we did have great internet, think about all the people who don't want to be in the city any longer. They don't, they found out during this time they can be successful and work remotely, and we have a lot to offer in our area. So
yep, and we completely agree. And Todd Jones, now at the EDC at the helm as the president, he and I have a great relationship, and I know that their board is very motivated to, and try to encourage that type of relocation of telecommuters and so on as part of their plan going forward. We've got Joe Comenti with us. He's the supervisor for Shasta County, and the reason why I spotlight him is we had a question related to CARES funds being received by the county. Has that already occurred? And I don't know if Joe's close to being able to share that information right now. I can say that a portion of the CARES funds that we've received that the county has received has been earmarked for our grant program. So the $300,000 for unincorporated Shasta County. So I can tell you that, yes, CARES funding is flowing into our county right now, and that's some of my own proof to make that claim. I'm just going to check the chat really quickly here. Oh, thank you, Aaron. Put the supporting the local restaurants link into the chat room. Do you have a question for our Assemblywoman, Aaron?
Well, I was just sitting here thinking about the permitting process for outdoor dining for restaurants and what that might look like, additional insurance costs, etc. And I can't help but think that just as these restaurants begin to go through that process, it will change again, and they'll say, okay, you can open. So I'm wondering from Megan, it kind of feels like the governor has put this restriction into place and then just kind of left it at that. It feels like indefinitely, he's not put any parameters officially or publicly in place for us to get back to where we were. Have you heard anything from any state agencies whatsoever about the parameters that are going to need to be met from the governor if we do not get granted back local control? Is that my internet or Megan's internet?
Oh, I think it got a little bit frozen there. You asked the toughest, best question of the day, I think, Aaron. Yeah.
I just broke the internet.
Aaron, of course, is our director of marketing and membership here with the chamber.
Speaking of better internet access.
You asked the chamber.
Okay.
Just speaking of better internet access.
Oh, there we go.
Just literally said, I'm in Sacramento, people. Let me just tell you, I'm in Sacramento, and it said, your internet is unstable. Oh,
aren't we all?
Unstable. So now I'm going to hold my MacBook right in front of my face and in front of the door to see. So I have not. I asked that question when they, as far as like rolling back a mandate, like what does that look like? And if I didn't get your whole question, so I'm trying to piece it together here. But so for instance, with our schools, reopening our schools and the mask, recommendation for all the kids to wear masks, I said, okay, that's fine. When would we roll that back? Like in 2 months from now? That is the question. Like, what does the uptake need to be? Where do our hospitalizations need to be? What if we find out that in 2 months our schools are not where we're not spreading COVID in our schools? Like, when can we roll back the mask mandate? And the governor's office liaison said, we haven't even thought about that. So I can see Erin's face right now as she's closing her eyes. So that is a reality that I'm not comfortable with saying forever this is how we're going to be. I want to get to a place where we're having conversations about how we can get back to school, get back to work, wear a mask. I'm not opposed to doing those things, but we need to have some kind of standard that says this is how we will get back to some kind of normalcy where we're back to work and our lives, and I'm very concerned about people's mental state for sure in all of this and for our children. So no, we are not hearing anything about what does that look like, how we can get back. So I don't want to hammer it home, but if we had local control, we could make those decisions based upon where our cases are coming from. And so that's going to be my goal. That's going to be my push. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear, because that's very helpful. What Michelle was, I hear that from different people, like, hey, I can't get my truck driver to come back to work because he's making more on unemployment. I mean, I'm hearing those stories, but it'd be really great to have it come from like a chamber of commerce. Don't you have like 1,000 members now in your chamber?
Nearly 1,200.
Oh, great. Last time I talked to you was close to 1,000. So that's amazing. So anything that comes together and those, it really is true. When you have in numbers, we are stronger. It's just, it's true. So, I appreciate all of you. I don't know what time it is. I have to get on a Zoom with the Nevada County leaders now at 2. So if there are any more questions, get them to Jake and Aaron and we'll get them answered as best we can. And thank you so much, everyone, for today and having me on.
Thanks,
We
Megan.
really appreciate you taking the time and care to help bring our voice to Sacramento, for your leadership in our district and your tenacity. So keep up the good work, and thank you to everyone for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you, Megan.